Senator Sterle. Senator Smith.
Thank you very much, Mr Acting Deputy President. It would be ungracious of me if I did not start by acknowledging the great local work that Senator Sterle does in his local community around the area of a forest field. So congratulations, Senator Sterle. Just on the weekend, Mr Acting Deputy President, we had the leader of the Labor Party, Mr Bill Shorten, the leader of the opposition, travel to Western Australia. He said, because we have a Senate election coming up on the 5th of April, for those of you in the gallery that don't know that, 5th of April Senate rerun in Western Australia. I won't bore you with the details. That's a speech for another time. Mr Shorten said, "It's a new season, not a replay of last year's grand final." It's a new season. It's not a replay of last year's grand final, he said. So what's happened in the last 24 hours? What has happened in the last 24 hours? Mr Shorten's ruckman, Paul Howes, has left the team. That is not an endorsement of the team's captain. But let me move on to Senator Moore's contribution. No one doubts there is not a debate in our country about whether or not people should be able to access medical services or more specifically, should be able to access their GP. There is a debate in our country about whether some people are accessing a GP more than they need to and whether doctors are over-servicing some patients. That is a debate we need to have. And why do we need to have that debate? Because health spending in our country is increasing by 4.8%. It is increasing by 4.8%. Our GDP is only increasing by 3%. There is a health funding issue in our country. We know that real government spending is increasing by 3.5% over the last 5 years. It will grow to 3.7% over the medium term. Shock horror. The new government, might be considering how we can do things better, how we can get better health outcomes for Australians. You should not be shock horror that the government might or may not be considering a range of alternatives. Let me read you from the Australian Financial Review. There will be a lot of fury over possible improvements to our Medicare and health system. But it will be embarrassing for Labor when they embrace the political reality that looms large over them. Because what is the history? Indeed, the idea of Medicare co-payments was one that was embraced, one that was discussed, one that found itself in the budget papers of former Prime Minister Bob Hawke. It is an idea that you have embraced. Indeed, and I'll read from this article in the Fin Review, indeed it was one that was agreed and endorsed in 1991 by the Hawke government. The co-payment Mark I of $2.50, which in today's money is just over $4, was used as a bargaining chip by the then leadership challenger Paul Keating in his importuning of recalcitrant Labor backbenchers. Perhaps it was sweet revenge that after Bob Hawke humiliated Keating in 1985 by nixing his consumption tax, Keating was able to return the favour by scrapping Hawke's co-payment. When it comes to the Labor Party, politics trumps economic reality every single time. Now, I have a few moments available to me. I would like to give you a running account of the consideration the former Labor government did under Bob Hawke and Paul Keating of changes to our Medicare system, changes that weren't just discussed, changes that weren't just thought about, changes that found their way into the budget papers of 1991 under Bob Hawke's leadership. It is totally correct. It is totally prudent for a new government to look at what it can be doing differently when it comes to government expenditure. But let's just go back to the commitments the government has actually made. Let's go back to the clear commitments the government has actually made. It has said that in the context of the National Commission for Audit, it is sticking to its election commitments. It has said we are not going to cut the overall level of spending in health, in education, in defence and medical research. It has said quite rightly, and this will be in the interests of all Australians, that the National Commission of Audit is about promoting efficiency, effectiveness and identifying areas of duplication with the states and territory. There is much work to be done because some people in our parliament, some people in this Senate chamber, do not think that there is a problem. They think that we can continue to go the way that we have been going for the last 6 years. There are others on this side of the Senate chamber who believe we cannot do that. Not because it's not good for us, but it's not good for future generations of Australians. You want to put your head in the sand. You are prosecuting many myths around this National Commission of Audit. You will be exposed, the budget will be improved, and you'll continue to stay in political never never.
Thank you, Senator Smith. Senator Lyons.
Thank you.